Hey race fans, welcome back to Behind the Helmet. I'm Sean, and with me today, driving the number 21 Chevy Camaro for RCR, Anthony Alfredo. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to jump in. You've been racing in the Xfinity Series starting not too long ago. How has it been so far?
It's been great, actually. This was a really big step in my career to jump into the NASCAR Xfinity Series, the second highest level in NASCAR racing and stock car racing in particular. So it's definitely been a huge opportunity, especially to drive for one of the most notorious race teams in the sport, arguably, Richard Childress Racing. It's an honor and a privilege, and I've just been trying my best to take advantage of the opportunity to the fullest extent. But only ran part-time just under half the season in the truck series last year, which is kind of the entry level to the national series. So to make this jump was definitely big nonetheless, but it's been going pretty well so far, and we still have 5 races left this season, and we've already had 4 top 6 finishes, 1 top 5, and a whole bunch of top 10s. So I'm really proud of that, and hopefully we can still get better throughout the rest of the season and get our first win.
That is awesome. So, where did you, what is your kind of history like kind of coming up? I mean, you mentioned the truck series, which we'll get back to in a few minutes, but how did you get into racing and just, end up where you are now?
So I actually grew up a race fan, just like a lot of other people. And that's why I always tell people I don't feel like really special or feel like like I'm some sort of, I don't know how to explain it. People always, I guess just one example would be people asking for your autograph. And to me, I was that same kid asking for people's autographs. I actually just tweeted a picture the other day with a fellow racer who I was probably 8 years old when I met him. And here I am, racing against him. And it's pretty crazy, and it's a blessing, really. I've just been very fortunate, have had great people around me, but it all started with my mom and dad watching races with them and my brother and sister, going to races. My first race was the 2012 Daytona 500, and from there I was hooked. And the first time I got to drive a race car, I had done some go-kart racing and stuff like that, but it was actually what's called a legend car. It's a really small race car. It's kind of the beginner to oval short track racing. And when I did that, I immediately found my passion in just the first lap I made. So ever since then, I've just had a love for the sport and trying to get as far as long as I can with it.
That is amazing. It's always just so interesting to see, how everyone starts out and, where they come from and how they get to where they are. So, you talked about the truck series a few minutes ago. And one thing I wanted to bring up, I haven't really talked about with some of the other drivers is, going back and doing, refreshing my memory of your career and doing my research. I've seen you've been in some pretty spectacular, wrecks. What is that like? Like that is something I think, I haven't really touched on, but seeing that, with the flames shooting out and, you kind of like hop out and run across the track, like what goes through your head?
That's a great question. It's hard to answer because I think when something like that happens, there's one of two things happens. One, it happens so fast, it's hard to remember. Or two, it's almost, it shakes you up so much you don't remember either. And it's kind of a lot of adrenaline plays into it, right? While you're racing, adrenaline's pumping and something like that, that's pretty wild. For example, the wreck I think you're referring to is Texas when I crashed in the truck series and the whole truck burst into flames. It was pretty crazy. Definitely the worst I've been in so far, and hopefully the worst forever, if not a long time. But I knew my mom was scared that time because I didn't even realize how bad it was until I had gone to the infield care center and they were playing the replay on the television, and I saw it and I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, my parents and family's got to be freaking out right now. But I didn't realize it was that bad at the time. I just remember it was a really hard hit. And I remember my, team on the communications telling me to get out because there was a fire, and I did see the flames, but it just happened so fast. It was hard to remember. The only thing I remember mainly is how sore I was afterwards.
That is, yeah, I think it's something, in any sport, there's a degree of risk, but, with racing, you've got these, these high performance machines, and then, there's obviously been some tragedies, and, to see that and be part of it, that's intense, man. It's really intense.
Definitely.
Something else that I'm really interested in talking about is you have your own nickname and like a hashtag that follows you, Fast Pasta with the Sauce Mafia, which I think is amazing. I love that you've kind of leaned into that. How did that kind of start, and what's that like?
So it actually started my first year stock car racing. I was driving a limited late model for Leapwalk Racing at Hickory Motor Speedway in North Carolina. And the announcer there, I believe it was Trevor Townsend, who called me Fast Pasta first. And it stuck. As soon as I started racing the Cars Tour for Dale Jr.'s team, Junior Motorsports, that was a touring series in late model stocks. And they were calling me that on those broadcasts. And then from there, it just took off. And I fully embraced it at that point. My Twitch username, where I do a lot of live streaming, that's fast_pasta. And we have merchandise and apparel with the logo. It's a cartoon version of me eating pasta, and it says my last name, Alfredo, under it. It's really funny. It's catchy, and I think it's everyone loves it and embraces it. So I tried to do the same.
Yeah, and you mentioned Twitch, and something that I just really love is that obviously you're really into gaming. You do Twitch streaming. You're on Discord. You're kind of this like next generation of drivers, in terms of like embracing this kind of like the new media that's out there. How do you see that evolving along with your career and its impact on racing in general?
I love answering that question and acknowledging my presence in those other communities, because a lot of people think I do it simply because I'm trying to grow my brand. And of course I am. And it's important, in my opinion, to have a presence in all communities and on different platforms. But really, I grew up watching content creators on YouTube and Twitch streamers and all that stuff. So when I had the opportunity to try to utilize my platform to do good for others, inspire others, and interact with others, people who support me, it was just common sense or common knowledge, I guess, for me to go ahead and try to interact with them through live streaming and produce my own content on YouTube. And the Discord community, I never expected to get as big as it is. I have my own Discord server called the Sauce Pit, and I believe it's over 500 members now in it, which I really just created when I started streaming and gaming with my friends. Of course, I was using Discord as a communication platform, but to actually build a community on it and see people chat and I go back and there's a watch party channel in there, and people are actually typing back and forth and messaging, not only during my races and talking about me, but they do it during the Truck Series races, the Cup Series races, and everything. And I'll hop in there with them and chat. So it's been really awesome. And all three of those platforms, Twitch, YouTube, and Discord, are some of my favorite, just because the communities are so unique, and they're the communities that I sort of grew up in before I was even racing.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting in terms of like, you've got a Twitter, and I would say probably every driver has a Twitter, so they're able to kind of communicate, as kind of like outs to fans. But like Discord is so different because it is a lot more interactive. So do you find that, you're building your brand, your fans and your base, is that a tool that you've been able to like kind of like use in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to what I was saying before. It's definitely a bonus that I'm building a presence in these other communities and engaging with people in different ways. But that wasn't really why I started. It was just because I always had wanted to stream, and I always wanted to create YouTube videos before I was racing. And it just kind of gave me a reason to do it. And then I just saw how fast growing not only my brand was in those communities, but how awesome it was to interact with other people in those communities. And I love all the mainstream social media platforms as well, and I'm very active on them and interact with people the same way I do in those other ones. It's just they're kind of unique. I feel like everyone's different, and that's why I treat each one of my social medias or each platform differently, so to speak.
Yeah, and that is awesome that you've been able to embrace that. I think the other thing I really kind of want to dive into a little more is like the Twitch streaming. Like you've got a pretty decent following, and can you kind of walk us through like how you got into that? And correct me if I'm wrong, you have your own rig when you're doing your iRacing and everything.
Yeah, so I started out doing a lot of console gaming because I was a big Call of Duty guy. That's actually how I got hooked into video gaming to begin with. So I was streaming console and PC games, and I still do that, but I mainly stream iRacing because there's multiple reasons. One, I love just to race online and play with other people. Two, I love to interact with the fans on there and race against people and give them the opportunity to compete against me. And three, it's really cool to live stream it because I think some people actually watch my stream to learn and get some driving tips. I actually have a pedal cam where you can see my footwork. You can see on my face cam, you can see the steering wheel and my hands kind of working. But I have a SimSeats driving simulator, which is an all-out racing rig. So it feels really realistic. iRacing is already the closest thing to real life, in my opinion, that any customer or consumer, so to speak, can hop on and use. So to be able to get on the SimSeats rig and feel even more immersed and sit exactly how I do in the real life race car, it also allows me to fine tune my real life skills and become a better race car driver. So to live stream all of that on Twitch is really special, and highlight some things and put them on YouTube as well. It's definitely unique. And as you mentioned, the following's pretty big, actually. I'm almost at 5,000 followers, and we're actually doing a really cool giveaway. We're giving away a Logitech G29 wheel and pedal set, so someone who may not have iRacing yet has the opportunity to get involved with it. That
is incredible. And I think, so how does it kind of translate, when you're doing, the sim racing, versus the real world racing?
So a couple things are different, and I'd say the biggest thing is definitely the physical aspect. In the race car, it can get up to 140 degrees, and it doesn't really happen to get that hot inside my apartment, obviously. I hope not. Maybe if my AC goes out. But as far as the fine tuning your hand-eye coordination, your footwork, and just being really smooth and finessed, I think it actually helps you as a driver. And the other cool thing is iRacing offers pretty much every discipline of racing. And by that, I mean, they not only have NASCAR style racing, but they have road course racing, IMSA, Le Mans, endurance racing. There's rallycross even, and off-road trucks. There's dirt oval racing, every type of racing pretty much. So what that allows me to do is not only just have fun producing content, trying to drive things I've never driven before, but I actually believe it helps me as a driver to learn how to drive different cars and different tracks.
Yeah, that is actually something I didn't even think about. But yeah, I guess being driving for the NASCAR series, and then looking at these other ones, it's pretty gives you a lot more visibility of like what's out there, I guess.
Definitely.
So I guess one other thing kind of tied to that is we've done some esport racing here with Real Racing 3, and we've actually kind of talked to some of our partners, NASCAR being one of them, in terms of like the future of esports. Like, how do you see esports kind of tying in with NASCAR and the future of the series?
I think it's going to tie in a even bigger way than it currently does. For example, I think iRacing has played a significant role in my career, and not only helped me become a better driver, but opened up a lot of opportunities. And we've even collaborated in my real life racing to make that, or to branch the two industries together, so to speak. I grew up, like I said, being a Call of Duty player and watching these big gaming orgs and all the competitions and competitive gaming events. So when I got into racing and discovered iRacing, it was the perfect way to bridge the esports industry and the motorsports industry together. So to be able to kind of try to be on the forefront of that, I've been very proactive, even starting my own esports league called the Esports Racing League. And the ERL competes with events held on iRacing for all these drivers who may be very talented at iRacing and are looking for a shot in the real world. And like I said, that's been something big in my career. And I know there's a few other drivers who would credit iRacing to helping them get to where they're at today. And I think we'll see a lot more in that in the future because it's so accessible. So people could kind of get their career almost started, so to speak, or learn some of the basics about racing before they've even driven a real life car or a race car in general.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how, the generation that's kind of coming up, which is so steeped in, I guess, we've all been playing video games for such a long time, but the way it's kind of progressed and that blurring the lines between, sim racing and real racing, real life racing is just really something interesting to watch. It's really amazing.
Definitely. I agree 100%.
So I guess my last question is, you're in the Xfinity Series, you're still in the running, you've done really, really great, but where do you see your future, with racing going, or your future with streaming?
So definitely I see myself ideally with trying to maximize my time away from the track to stream as much as possible, because streaming's not really a job to me, and I think that's why I have the interaction I do with the fans, and I enjoy it so much. I just hop on, and if I'm going to play a video game, it's not that hard to open up my broadcast software and start streaming it and have a lot of fun with my friends and talk to the people in the chat and play with some fans, no matter what it is. So I see the Twitch channel growing a lot down the line, and it has been every single day since then. And as far as my real life on track career, in a perfect world, that is, if I could lay it out right now, I would love to go compete full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series next season with the same team I'm working with right now at Richard Childress Racing, and go compete for that championship, try to win a bunch of races, and move up to the NASCAR Cup Series in 2022. And from there, my ultimate goal has always been to be a NASCAR Cup Series champion. And I have a lot of confidence in the people around me and all my partners that could help me do that. And like I said, even this year with the team I have, I've been running part-time in the series. And in my first handful of races, I had only ran, I think it was the first quarter of the year or third of the year, I had only run half the races, and I was still top 16 in points, which is the amount of drivers they actually take for the playoffs. So to only run half the races and be qualified to run in the playoffs was a big testament to the team and what we're capable of, and that's why I really want to go do that in a full-time season where we can actually contend for the points championship.
That is awesome. Yeah, I've been kind of following along your career and seeing how it's been going. And yeah, I think you have so many avenues to go down. Obviously, the real racing, real life, real world racing career, and then the Twitch streaming stuff. I mean, I think that's it's funny that you could become like almost like a celebrity in that space with which is so different and separate that people don't even know about it.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of the people who discover me on Twitch don't even realize I'm a real life driver until I mention something or someone else in the chat mentioned something. You wouldn't believe how many times, almost every time I stream, we have a bunch of list of commands, and my moderators in the chat will drop a command that kind of explains who I am or something if I'm in the middle of a race, or I'll say it and they'll go, "Oh my gosh, you're a real life driver? I had no idea." And it's really cool because that's really fun to me to interact with a community that's so different. People who maybe don't even watch racing or never have, or maybe they just had never heard of me up until they discovered me on Twitch, which is kind of unique because usually you go onto a new platform and a lot of people who already follow you go check you out on there, but it hasn't been like that on Twitch, YouTube, or Discord, or a whole lot of those. So, other than the mainstream platform. So it's been really fun and definitely special.
Yeah, I think there's a real opportunity there to, all that cross, bring people from your gaming side over to, the NASCAR series side, and then, vice versa.
Absolutely. That's always been my goal. And that all ties back into trying to bridge the gap, right, between the motorsports industry and the esports industry, which in my opinion has already been closed up. I just think there's a lot in the future that, or a lot that the future holds for that.
Yeah, well, I think you've got a bright future ahead of yourself. Anthony, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.